Okay. So having business hours set up in your office is really nice, you guys. And it was kind of funny when I actually listed out all of the different stages of life that I have done this business in, doing my business in a college dorm room, doing it as a college student with roommates, as a single woman with an in-home business, as a mom with small babies at home, with toddlers, and then of course, all the way up into the teenage years with my kids. I think honestly, I could say I've about hit every stage of life other than like having an empty nest where I wouldn't have to have any distractions or anything. And you guys, I really believe that when I decided to take my business seriously, when I decided to take my business to the next level and not just have it be this side gig, I wanted to give it attention. I wanted to give it respect. I really wanted to make sure that I set some boundaries around my business. And I wanted not only for myself, but I really felt like my family deserved that. I felt like they needed to know when I was working or when I wasn't working. I needed to know when I was working or when I wasn't working. And I think the most important question you can ask yourself, like it says on this slide, is how can my business best suit me at this season in my life? Okay. And I really honestly believe that this has endless answers. How can your business best suit you? Well, and I would love for Tanya to give some feedback too, as we're talking about this slide here in just a second. But you guys, as a college student, I really didn't have to have too many boundaries. My schedule was pretty flexible. The only person I had to really, be accountable for was myself. I do remember having, conversations with my roommates like, hey, when are you not going to be home? When could I have people over to the house and do facials, as a respect type thing? But really it was when it started to commingle with my family. I have in every season, I have found a different answer. When I had small kids, I really wanted to work from home. That was so important to me. And so I ended up having, I always had some version of a babysitter that would come to my house and that would help me play with the kids out in the front room while I could be in the kitchen or in my office working. Or for those of you who maybe aren't going to have an in-home office or that's not an option for you right now, I could go out and do facials. So it was a really good boundary line for me to be able to say, Karen is coming over Tuesday from 10 to noon or 2 to 4 or 4 to 6. And I have to have facials set up during that time so that I could get out of my house and I could work while she was here. Okay. Obviously that has been a huge trend through my whole business is how to work my business with kids, which I think it's great because Tanya has a completely different, story than me. She doesn't have small kids, or how could I get creative, you guys? How could I also work within the season of life that I am in? I had a lot of like, hey, you have small babies, I have small babies. Why don't we get together and get our small babies together and we can just do really quick mommy facials, while the babies played. And sometimes that was the most chaotic facials I've probably ever had. I remember sometimes there being markers and Sharpies that got written on a wall while the moms were having facials and masks. But that, you guys, it was something that I just had to do to get the facials in my space. Okay. And that is something that I really want to emphasize to you tonight is that this business works when we work. We really need to change our mindset to, instead of how much money did I make this week, which yes, that is a really important thing to track, having a star sales week. But so many of you are in a season in your business where you do not yet have 50 to 75 skincare customers, and you can really just sit on the reorders of your business. Most consultants that I talk to, they have under 15 to 20 skincare customers. And so when you are in that season of your business, really you guys building those new facials, building those appointments, working that into your life is really critical until you hit that 50 to 75 skincare customer mark. Then you can take a little bit of a breather because your reorders in your business can start to catch. And that number may seem really high to you. So maybe you want to set it to 25 to 50. But either way, a really good marker for me was how many people was I in front of this week? How did I need to get creative about, making my life, and like I said, how can my business suit this season of my life? How could I make that work for me? On the flip side of now that my kids are grown, and I have a little bit more flexibility because they're in school for 8 hours a day, I love to go to offices, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But really being strategic about your business hours, I think, is so critical. So Tanya, what else would you add about business hours? Anything?
Sorry, I'm multitasking. Um, no, I think that was really good. I mean, you really covered all of it, and I think, I don't know, I had the same situation with you, like where I had roommates, where I didn't have roommates. And so just even asking, sometimes like our schedule works for us, but it may not work for other people, like your husband or your roommates. And so just like having that communication piece with them to let them know, like, hey, here's when I'm doing this, so that then when it happens, like they won't be surprised, or like your husband won't, get mad at you because like you didn't tell him 10 girls were coming over. Like, so I just would like that communication piece, I think, for other people's schedules is important too.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, you guys. You run an in-home business. And I really should have added to this slide. I mean, Tanya, you added a really good point, which is, your spouses, that's an interesting dynamic. Some of them don't always love having people in their home. I remember Jake being, still to this day, if you came to our house, he pretty much is, he's more quiet and he doesn't really socialize. And he'll go into our room and just kind of like go chill, and he shuts the door. I remember sometimes having to train him, and literally, train him. And the same thing with your kids. I don't think it's any different. But having to teach them how to be respectful to people when they came over to the house, like how do they greet people? My husband's just so quiet. I remember having to say, Jake, you have to say hi. Like, you have to introduce yourself. If you walk in the middle of because there's these women and this guy just like walks in the middle of a facial, like that can be weird, right? And so make sure that you really, I agree with that, like have a conversation with your spouse. Like, what are the things that are going to make them feel comfortable, because this is their home. And so that is a really good point. And that's definitely something we can go over again. Okay. So tip number 2 is having designated delivery days. This is huge, you guys. Oh my gosh. Okay. So if we're going to talk about you having a boutique, we really need to talk about how does this boutique work for you and not always you for it. Okay. So tip number 1 on here is having product on hand is a huge advantage. Okay, so even to this day, when I go to do a party, I go to do a facial, for me to take a filled roll-up bag or for me to take product in my car with me is going to save me time, because I don't have to then go back and redeliver things, or, those types of things are always going to be a huge advantage to us. And the more that you can bring them with you, the more you completely eliminate any back time that is happening, like we're just talking about with deliveries. Okay. Now, deliveries are going to happen, whether it's, in the beginning stages, or maybe you haven't grown, your inventory is growing right now, or just the reorder system with your customers. Okay. And so I decided a long time ago to have designated delivery days. And this is maybe not something, I know other directors who love to deliver product every single day. That's something that they choose to do. I'm going to be really authentic and honest with you that drives me nuts. Probably because I had to do so much of it with small kids in a car, screaming and yelling, some of them having nap times, some of them missing nap times, to get product to people. And at some point I had to hit the pause button and just say, hey, this isn't working for me. And even to this day, you guys, with my kids being older, and yes, I have a little bit more time, I still believe that for me to block my time is still a better use of my time. And so that bullet number 2, where it says having a designated delivery day and then training your customers which days you will be delivering. Okay, so what that looks like in the reality is every time that I get a reorder, so let's just say it's a text, let's just say it's a conversation. Now, the only time that this doesn't apply, so I should say this, is if it's a new product or a new facial. So if I facial somebody on Monday and for some reason I don't have that product with me at the facial, like we just talked about, that does not apply in this situation. I do try to get that product to that person as soon as possible because I want them to experience that instant gratification that comes along with having Mary Kay product. So, but say it's a reorder text and it comes in, and I just had 2 reorder texts come in today, actually. And so one of the things that I always say is, my reorder day is, my delivery day is Friday. And so I can take that to you on Friday, or if you need it ahead of time, you can absolutely come and get it from me anytime this week. Okay. And so I give them an option, and I put it in their hands, because if they don't have time to come get it, or they would like for me to deliver it, then I tell them when that will be. But then I put it back on them if Friday is going to be too long, then that's the expectation, is for them to come get it from me. Okay. I do really, really like having a credit card on file. That's the next bullet. Now, some of you, some of you don't do this, and I just want to encourage you. ProPay, the app that we use for processing credit cards and debit cards, when you do go to renew that, they do charge you now, I think it's like $5 to $10, and they give you the opportunity to have the ability to store credit cards. This is amazing, and my customers by far love, love, love this. Do not be freaked out about this at all, because in my mind, I would so much rather a company store the credit cards where it's encrypted and it's safe than writing down the credit card like on a sales ticket, first of all. And second of all, when I do store their credit card, when I'm delivering product, I just ask their permission, and I just say, hey, did you want me to charge credit card 859 or whatever the number is on file? And you guys, honestly, like 90% of them, they love that, because it just takes the it takes the running around. It's just like Amazon. Everything stores your credit card now. I mean, literally, and I love it, and I'm sure you do too. I mean, when you go into Amazon and you do a one-click checkout, or you go to your grocery list on Walmart and it's a one-click checkout, it saves you time, and it's annoying to have to consistently give your credit card information to people. And then that way it allows me to drop off product and leave it at their home. And it just makes it, again, easier on me. And I don't have to go chase them around, put a time, hey, you're going to write me a check. I guess I have to come get the money from you at such and such time. The other thing that I should tell you that ProPay does allow you to do is there is a way to actually send a text like invoice to a customer. And if you need help figuring out how to do that, that has been helpful too. So say for some reason I don't have somebody's credit card on file, or that's not something that they want to do, I can text them the invoice ahead of time, and I let them know that it has to be paid in advance for me to deliver it. So again, that conversation looks something like, hey, Susan, I don't have your credit card on file. I'll text you the invoice. Let me know when you get it. And once it's paid, I will get it delivered to you. And so that is a really handy way to do that as well. I'm going to go into the last one here in a second, but Tanya, what else would you add about designated delivery days or things like with payments that have made it simpler and faster for you?
I definitely store cards on file like that. My customers love that too, and they really don't mind. I mean, I've maybe had like one person in 5 years that was like, oh my God, I'm going to get hacked. But, and I think the only other thing, like I have a more flexible schedule, which some of you don't, but I like kind of do, but don't have designated days, but I've kind of made it my role that I I try not to let it go past 2 days from when they order. So like it still gives me a grace period where like if they order it today and I'm obviously not going to run over to my office to deliver it right now, and then maybe tomorrow, like it's Monday and I have stuff to do, so then like by Tuesday I'm preparing to deliver that. And then what that also allows me to do is then collect and process more orders like Monday and Tuesday, and so then all of my orders can go out on Tuesday. So like I've kind of lately this last year like had that like that 2-day rule, and I feel like it's worked out really well because I don't really have a place where customers can pick up products like as good as like Holly's box, because I live in the ghetto kind of and people steal products. So so I am more of like a delivery, or they have to like be able to meet me, which is sometimes hard on my schedule. So I've really loved that like 2-day rule, because it still gives me a grace period, but then I still have like an urgency to complete it for them.
I love that. Okay. So in the chat feature, as we're going, if you guys have any questions, please, share those with us. If there's anything that you're wanting to know about how we handle deliveries, or things that you have found, or even just give us some feedback, things that you have found that have been frustrating. We're always wanting to, make our training better. And so, like I said, any questions or feedback as it is regarding to deliveries, I think that would be awesome. The last thing I wanted to say with delivery days is, the other thing that I have started to do in the past couple of years is, when I do deliver product, trying to do it at an office if that's where somebody works. So for example, when they come into the facial, just like we talked about last week, and we're getting to know them and we're building that relationship, a big piece of what I'm asking them is, what do you do? Where do you work? Now, you guys, I don't ask that just to be like fluffy. I ask it to be strategic. Does she do something where she's around other women? For example, is she a nurse? Is she a teacher? Does she work at a dentist's office? And I make a really big, note when she leaves, like on her profile, what it is that she does, so that when I am doing deliveries, if it is possible for me to take it to her office instead of her home and put it in her mailbox, that I can take and kind of be like, of course, the Mary Kay treat lady, where I have little like goodie bags or lookbooks or something special that I can give to the office ladies that are there, just to kind of like, hopefully potentially get new clients. Think about that. If you were a woman sitting in an office and another woman had a delivery product of makeup, wouldn't you be like, hey, what did you just get? Like, tell me more about that. And so there's definitely more ways that we can talk about networking at offices, but I do want to put that into your, like, just the forefront of your consciousness. I had to kind of remember why I was doing deliveries. And you guys, for me, in the most optimal setting, those deliveries aren't just checking boxes off to get product to people. It's how could that process, or how could that delivery lead me to more clients? And so that's what I kind of had to switch my thinking on a little bit over the past couple years. Okay, so delivery strategies continued. So Tani just alluded to this, and yes, this does probably make a difference where you live. A long time ago, and I don't even know where I got this idea, but I just created a client box. The picture that you're seeing is honestly from probably 6 or 7 years ago. I got that box at Ross. I think it cost me $3 on clearance. I super glued or hot glued that little clip, because at that point I was still having people like bring me checks and stuff like that, which some people still do. And it says payments made to Holly Bartz. And I had a little envelope, just a regular envelope that I put up there. And you guys, at that point in my business, I didn't have a ton of customers locally yet. I just moved back to Casper. And so that little hat box, it's kind of what they call them, like a nesting box. Honestly, that used to go inside and outside my house as I had somebody who was coming by. It wasn't a permanent structure on my porch. And so do know that if you decide that you want to have a client box, it can be something that you're moving in and out of your home, just based on when someone is going to come and grab stuff from you. Now, of course, my husband is amazing and he's a carpenter, and he's made me a permanent box that sits on my porch and is bright pink, so nobody can ever miss it, which is really nice. But that is kind of, there's lots of different variations of that. Okay. Customer delivery service. You guys, this is also a really great service if you are short a couple things or if you need to get something to somebody. Again, I want to take you back to a season when I was building my inventory. There had been a season where I had kind of depleted my inventory and I was growing it back. And I remember, and this was like, I don't even know, 10 years ago maybe. And I remember, I was used to having products on hand. I had invested in having inventory when I first started my business. And so when I was kind of rebuilding my inventory, I remember being a little frustrated that I didn't have all the things that I used to have in front of me and for my customers. And I want to just be really honest with you that I had to create a couple of stories in my mind and a couple of systems that would free me up from feeling obligated to always getting stuff to people right away. You guys, women, AKA you, you, me, all of us in a tree, none of us like to disappoint people. Okay. And I know because I've been on both sides of that, where somebody wants something right away, and they look at you with their little eyes, and they're like, "Okay, when do I get my product?" Or I'm out of stuff right now. Stop. No. So when do I get my foundation? And I think the thing that, like I said, the couple things that empowered me was one thing, which was I told people one sentence, and I just said, you know what, I'm in the middle of, growing my inventory. And so sometimes I'm out of a few things. And so I really am working on that. And this will just be a one-time thing. Now, you guys, I didn't say that with the intention of not following through. I said it because I was going to work my hiney off for the next 45 to 60 days to pay back my business, for what I had, honestly, if I was being real with you, I embezzled from my business in that season. I was going to pay back my business, or maybe you're in the season where you just need to grow your inventory. And I literally put in 30 to 45 days of work, and I invested all of the profits for my business from a short amount of time. It wasn't a long amount of time. And I also didn't only see one face. Okay. So I'm just going to level with you, your customers sometimes, we don't want to just say that to them, because they really do. You guys, Amazon is your biggest competitor. You want to be able to get things to people in a timely fashion. The other thing that I have said to people in the past, which is true, which is sometimes, again, I'm growing my inventory. I don't have that on hand yet because I didn't have anybody purchasing that. So maybe you're somebody who started with a small inventory and you're still growing, and really just being upfront and honest with them and saying, you know what, I didn't have anybody that was purchasing that product to this time, but moving forward, I will make sure to have it on my shelf for you from now on. Okay. So that, again, let your client know this one time, if you have to wait for it, this is a one-time deal, and I am the professional. I will have it stocked on my shelf for the next time. And I did follow through with that. I did make sure I always had one of those things on my shelf for them moving forward. The third strategy that I used during these seasons when I was kind of growing inventory, or my inventory was in flux, was that I always had a designated ordering day. And you guys, this again makes a huge difference. So let's say you're growing your inventory. Let's say you're investing in, trying to grow your inventory. You're seeing a facial on Monday, and then you see another facial on Thursday. Now, there may be somebody out there, and this is where customer delivery service comes handy, who says, oh my gosh, I absolutely have to have this product by Friday. Okay. Well, the cool thing is that you could choose to get on a customer delivery service, drop ship that product from Mary Kay, and there is a fee for that. Okay. It is your discretion if you want to charge that fee to your customer, or if you want to split it with them, or to take the fee on yourself. Okay. We can talk more about that obviously in length, but I really do believe that just having most people in most situations, most people just want to know when it's coming. And when I was growing my inventory, I kind of got caught in these little hiccups again of not wanting to disappoint people or not let people down. And so what I found myself doing was I was placing all of these tiny orders. And you guys, shipping for Mary Kay is $9.95. And that's no joke. Like, that is going to cut into your profit very quickly. And so when you do that, I was like, shoot, I'm doing this to make money, but guess what? I'm maybe losing money. That's just being aware of that business practice. And so what I started telling people was, I'd facial somebody on Monday and they'd look at me with their cute little eyes and say, okay, when would my product be here? And I would say, you know what, your product will be here early to middle of next week. Okay. And I would say that to everybody I facialed Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And every Friday without fail, by Friday around noon, I would always place my Mary Kay order. That's why I have such a really good habit of having a financial Friday, you guys, is I became disciplined that every Friday had to be my Mary Kay payday. I had to not only pay myself, but I had to order my product. And so when I ordered it by that Friday, that my order for Mary Kay typically would be here between Wednesday to Thursday of the next week. And so then I could let them know as soon as it was coming and I could get it to them. Okay. And that process saved me on shipping. It saved me on not knowing what to say to people. It saved me on not feeling like weird when I didn't have it right away. And again, my intention in doing that was to whatever my products were, or my customers, the products that my customers had, my intention was over time to make sure I had at least one or two of those things so that when they did reorder later on, that wasn't the same experience next time, that they would get it right away. Okay. So Tanya, what other things would you add about like growing your inventory, delivery strategies, things like that?
I definitely also had to grow my inventory, and I kind of said the same thing that you did. Like, I don't have that right now. But one thing that I have found, and sometimes, I pretty much have everything, but sometimes I still, run short, or I just sold a ton of whatever they ordered. And so what I will do, depending, like, you'll get to, like, know your customers too, like, do they care if it's a little late? Are they like really, really out and they really need it? And so let's just say they ordered 5 products and one of them was missing. Instead of placing a CDS order, like just to get them the one product or just to place the one order, or, just to get that product, I will actually give them the other 4 products and then, tell them, hey, I'm out of this one specifically, but I'm placing my order tomorrow or Friday or whatever. And so as soon as it gets in, then I'll get it to you. And a lot of people, I think, just appreciate, like, they feel like they're still getting something. And then that way they're not waiting for everything. They're just waiting for, one product, but then you're not having shipping costs every, or charging them CDS shipping costs just for one product when you had like all the rest of the 4 of them.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, really good point. Okay, so the last thing we're going to kind of end on is just having your in-home office. I'm going to spend about 3 minutes talking about this. So again, if you guys have any questions, make sure to kind of just pop those in the chat feature. So having an in-home office is, it's nice if you can do that. I just want to walk you through what that would look like. This is actually my dining room. There was a season where I did a lot of work in my house, and I just had to have a space in my home where it could be just Mary Kay. And, there's a lot of framework around, just creating boundaries with your family, if you have an office area or if your dining room is that area, and that's what it was. We ate dinner there. I would literally clean off the table and we would do facials there. Okay. Now the perk to that was that I had something set up and it felt professional, all the time. Now, if you are not able to have something in your and I should go back really fast. So it says, set your table to impress. Having a black tablecloth, even just something from the Dollar Tree, having a couple of silver trays, again, from the Dollar Tree, or if you have a Hobby Lobby near you, you can always find really pretty like trays and chargers and things like that. If you're looking at this picture right now, practically all of that, you guys, was like clearance from Target or Hobby Lobby. If you know me, I am the cheapest person alive. And so, and that's wrapping paper that is actually on the top of my buffet. And so I just really got creative because I didn't have a lot of extra money. But you guys, so whether or not you can have this in your home where you could have it set up all the time, and maybe that's a goal, maybe that's something that you can just do right now to create, a space for your business. But I do want to talk to you about if you can't have it in your home for whatever reason, which I think of when I was in my college dorm room, or I was in, when I had roommates with my roommates in college, I didn't have everything set up all the time, but I did have everything packed in my starter kit to go do facials. So my tablecloth was in my starter kit. My silver trays were in my starter kit. So when I went to someone else's house, so whether they were coming to me or whether I was going to somebody else, everything rolled out. And not as extravagant as this picture, of course, but everything rolled out and it was a professional setup at their house. Okay. So don't underestimate how good it is when things look nice. Having a professional, setup. And like I said, it can be as easy as just a black tablecloth and a couple of silver trays that you can put the product on, a couple of chargers. And it just creates a more boutique atmosphere, which then elevates the vibe of what you're doing. Okay. And also, obviously, I love having crock pots and towels. That makes a huge difference. Okay, the last thing we're going to talk about is Happy Mail and wrapping your products. Using the Mary Kay shopping bags, and with nice, fun tissue paper, having some raffia or some tulle from Hobby Lobby, buying the self-sealing bags from my girlfriend's house, or actually those self-sealing bags are from Mary Kay MK Connections. Just having something that sets your product apart a little bit is really, really nice. Just making it something special, so people's products isn't coming, that's when you go to what's the difference between buying underwear at Victoria's Secret, seriously, and buying underwear at Walmart? Well, it's both underwear, but at Victoria's Secret, it's an experience, right? They wrap it in tissue paper and they put it in a really nice box. And sometimes they have a gift with purchase, and it just looks and smells and feels really, really nice. Versus when you go to Walmart, they throw your lacy underwear in this nasty like plastic bag that everybody can see through. And you're like, everybody can see what's in there, and it just feels weird. And so creating that like boutique atmosphere when you're giving stuff to people, it just, again, I always tell people it's like the present that they paid for. Here's your present that you paid for. And it's my job to make it look and feel and smell great. And I really believe that just, again, it ties into, it just ties into what people are getting from you, and they get excited to want that. So, okay, so we have about 4 or 5 minutes left. Tanya, what else would you add to that?
I'm Pearl.
I think all of that was great. One thing that I did when with my in-home office, so I did a lot of stuff in my dining room, but then I traveled a lot also, especially when I lived with my sister and I just had a bedroom in her house, and then when I had 2 roommates. And so because I didn't have a lot of place, I was more of that traveling, boutique. And so one thing that I did, which I still do, I actually did it on Saturday, I have my starter kit packed, like how Holly said, like I know everything that goes and it can roll out and be professional. But then I think it also is professional when you can a customer's appointment and they buy something and you're 2 hours from home and you can literally like walk out to your trunk and hand them their product. And so one thing that I did when I was traveling a lot, and I wish I have the pictures somewhere, but those little cube organizer things that you can get anywhere, like Walmart or Target. It's like a bookshelf, but it's the cube things. So all of my product is in those cubes, and it's organized, and it's really only like 6 cubes or something like that. And so they all have a place. And so at home, they literally are on the shelf in the cube. So when I fill an order at home, I pull the cube out, I fill the product, put it back. And then when I travel, instead of having to like unpack product from a bookshelf or from a box or something, I literally grab the 6 cubes and I throw them in my trunk, and I take my starter kit bag and I go. So Saturday I was in Denver and I had a facial, and before I left from Pueblo, I packed, my products, my starter kit bag, went to her house, did a full facial makeover, and I was able to walk out to the trunk and be like, here you go, and she's like, oh my gosh, like, you have everything, you're 2 hours from home. And so I just think that professional part of it too, like if you're going to go to people, it's so impressive to them that you don't then have to go home and like charge them a shipping fee and they get it 4 days later because you had to go home and get it for them, So that was just a fun thing that I randomly kind of did, and it's something I've stuck with, and I really, really love it, because then now tomorrow when I go back to the office, all I am going to do is take those crates, those cubes, and literally just put them right back on my shelf. And there's like no cleaning, no organizing, like it's all totally mobile.
I love that. I love it. Okay, so let's just open it up really fast. I just would love for you guys to get to ask us questions or just kind of give us your feedback. Tonight was just all about how in the reality do you make this, and you guys keep it simple. Don't like, your number one goal this week is to still see facials. Okay. So don't worry if you don't have the office put together. We're just teaching you things that like to start working towards, literally this week, the only thing you need on your shopping list is go get some tissue paper. You hopefully already have some Mary Kay bags. If you don't, then you go to Hobby Lobby or you go to Target or whatever, and you go get yourself some cute little bags to put your product in, and you go hold some facials. And you just, like Tanya just said, you just create like a system so that you have product with you, so that you're always selling things with you. And you work on how to create this boutique experience at your facials and in your home as you go. Like, your number one goal this week is not to shut off everything and to go make your home office be completely functional. You guys, we are 1 full week away from Thanksgiving. This week is a prime week to get facials in. This is the week to be asking people, hey, would you be a part of my skincare portfolio? Hey, would you want to come and do a quick makeover before the holidays hit? Whatever it is that you need, to be getting that person excited. But this is a really great week to take advantage of that. Next week, you're going to have some downtime. You're going to have some dead time with family where you want to get away from them. So use next week as a time to get, the boutiquing part completely, set up and all of that. So I want to clarify that, because I don't want anyone to shut down their business this week and just put together their home office. No. Do facials, take a couple tips from what we talked about, and then, spend some time next week if you want to do that. So, okay, let's just share some ahas really fast. I'm going to stop the recording.